Hello, and welcome to another segment of the Coatesville Area Public Library's Oral History Project. Today I have with me Dr. Michael Giammarino, a prominent physician in the Coatesville area for a number of years. Good morning, Dr. Giammarino.
Good morning.
Dr. Giammarino, we find that you've come here to Coatesville from the Brooklyn area quite a number of years ago, in fact 1937 to be exact.
1938.
38. And can you give us an idea of what exactly it was that brought you to the Coatesville area?
Yes. Well, you said I was a physician. I'm a chiropractor. And coming from New York, at the time New York had no law regulating the practice of chiropractic, but Pennsylvania did. And I wanted to go to a state that was licensed, of course. And so shortly after I graduated, I learned of the necessary requirements here to take the board, and I qualified for it. And so then shortly after we were married, my wife and I moved here in the summer of 1938. And we came to this sleepy little town. Well, the reason I came specifically to Coatesville, I looked in this immediate area so I wouldn't be too far away from Brooklyn because of my family. And we located here because it was a nice town, and there was one chiropractor here, and I thought that I would fit in well. And of course, this was the tail end of the Depression, and things were quite, what shall I say, not too brisk regarding business and things like that. Mm-hmm. In fact, what I'd like to bring up, which will give you an idea how conditions were, an office visit for all doctors at the time was $1. And I had come from Brooklyn, where it was much higher, $2.50. And so we got, of course, $1. And after about a year and a half or two, the physicians raised it to $1.50, and so we went along too. And we would go and shop at A&P for a week's groceries, and it would cost about $5, and you'd have a week's groceries. And as I tell my friends today, now you go to the shop and it costs you $5 just for toilet paper. So conditions were kind of poor. And then, of course, the outbreak of the war brought a big change to this. Mm-hmm. And Lucan's being in the steel plate business, of course, they got very busy. And the federal government decided to help Lucan's modernize, and they contributed $10 million to the company. And so they started to build, and they had construction workers come here, and plus the local people who were busy and working, and there was hardly any housing. In fact, some of the construction workers lived in the trailers that were set up in gasoline station lots. And then you had, of course, the VA with over 1,000 people working there. And in the neighboring area, it's beautiful Chester County, we had dairy farms galore. And so everything was very busy, the farmers and railroad workers and VA and Lucan Steel and all, and of course the teachers, you mustn't forget them. Mm-hmm. So it was a very brisk town, and at that time Coatesville was considered the shopping center of Chester County. And it had some lovely stores. It had lots of ladies' stores, and there was Cohen Brothers, which was at Main Street near 2nd Avenue. It was considered sort of a general store where you could buy men's and women's clothing. Mm-hmm. And they had ladies' hat shops where they just sold ladies' hats. Imagine.
Yes.
And lots of shoe stores, and they had restaurants galore. So it was a real bristling town. I remember one time when my sister-in-law came to visit us from New York. My wife's sister brought along a friend. And coming from New York, you know, they thought, well, they came from a busy area. So one night, I believe it was a Saturday night, they went out for a walk. And when they came back, they said it was like Times Square, the streets of Coatesville. You could hardly walk. There was so much traffic because people shopped here. You could hardly park because there was the street area was very limited. So that was the reason why I came here. Now, as you know, there have been great changes in Coatesville.
Yes, they have.
But originally, it had some lovely homes, especially along Chestnut Street. Well, from about 2nd Avenue to 6th Avenue. Large, nice homes. In fact, Chestnut Street between 3rd and 4th was considered Doctor's Row. They had a lot of physicians along there. And on Main Street, especially between 5th and 6th, a lot of large homes. In fact, I have a list of names of the men, the people who lived there at the time. Now, I happen to live
I think we should point out that this happens to be your block. When this is your block that we're talking about.
That's the block I live in now,
Right.
yes.
When did you first move into that home?
I moved there in 1944. The people who built it were the only ones that lived there before we were. It was built in 1897, so it's 100 years old. So we've been in it longer than the original people who built it. Now, next door to us was a lovely home owned by Mr. Garman, who was a jeweler in town, Edgar Garman.
I remember his story.
In fact, he was instrumental in sponsoring me as a member of the Rotary Club. And when Mr. Garman passed away, why, the family decided to try to sell the house, and they put it up for sale. And eventually, Dr. Margolies bought it. And he decided that they would put up a nursing home at that location. And so they dicked around, and they finally decided that it was too expensive to put up a nursing home, and the house remained vacant. And vagrants would live in it, and occasionally there was a fire. In fact, in during one of the fires, our insurance company called to find out if it had damaged our house, which it hadn't. And my wife, being a poet, wrote a poem regarding the house next door, how it had been a lovely home at one time, and now it was with shutters that were flapping in the wind, and the roof had a hole in it because of the fire. And so this house remained that way for quite a while, and Dr. Margolies then thought he would donate it to the library. And that's the site of the library, the present site of the library today. It's a wonderful location. In fact, I think a lot of Main Street revolves around the library, especially that particular area.
Yeah, I have. Dr. Giammarino, I know that you have been on the board of trustees of the Coatesville Library for 15 years now. I would think that you must see some differences in the problems that the library has had to deal with over the years.
Yes, well, I think that, in fact, in this morning's paper, there was another article pertaining to how the libraries in Pennsylvania, the poorest funded libraries in the country. In fact, I think the figures were that they spend $29 per capita in Pennsylvania, where in neighboring states they spend $319 for the libraries. So you can see the big difference.
Quite a disparity.
And I'm sure you're aware how it's funded. The neighboring townships, or whatever area the Coatesville area serves, are supposed to give $1 per capita toward the library, which is then matched by the state, and then some portion of that is contributed by the county. So if one of the townships may have a population of 2,000 people, and they give $1,500 to the library, while the library loses the matching fund instead of being $1 per capita, which would be $2,000. So that went on for years, and of course, as you know, expenses kept escalating. And so there were several years there where we would, at the beginning of the year when all the funding came in, we were just fine. Everything was fine. And then about September or October, we had no money, didn't know where we were going to get money for the salaries. And that's been one of the biggest problems, and I think that the county commissioners know that that is a big problem, and they hope that somehow to correct that. But that was one of the problems, that we would run out of money before the year end, and we would always be in debt to the county, and then make up that debt at the beginning of the year, but by the end of that year, why, that we would be in trouble again. Now, I happen to remember a story which has nothing to do with the library, which I guess very few people would know about, because I think it was just a single discussion between Mr. Atwell, who happened to be the principal of the high school. This was about the outbreak of the war. David Atwell.
David Atwell,
David
who was
Atwell.
principal in what years?
I would think, I don't know the exact years, but I know it around the 40s, early 40s.
Thank you.
And the high school at that time was just a few doors from where we lived, which is, the high school was on Main Street between 5th and 6th.
Which is currently Carl Benner Elementary.
Right. And so they needed a new high school because the area was growing. And Mr. Atwell said that he went to this meeting, and he suggested as a location for the new high school what was then called Margolies Heights, which would be about 14th, 15th, 16th Avenue, up towards Westchester Road. And they thought of it, and most of the board members said, oh, we couldn't possibly do that, because if we did that, we would have to bus the students out to school. So you see, that was not, at the time, that wasn't what was happening. People walked to school, which were mostly in town. And so Mr. Atwell said they finally decided on building it where it is on Olive Street. But they found out later that they wished they had it in an area where there was more room, so they would have parking and all, and an expansion. But that was a story that I remember about the high school.
Okay. Tell us about your affiliation with the Rotary Club.
Well,
You are a past president, I believe?
yes, I'm past president. I was president 1951 to 52. I'm at present. I think I'm present. I'm the oldest in anything. I've been the longest member in our present Rotary Club, and up until a year ago, I was the oldest. In fact, even a year ago, I was next to the longest member. A man by the name of Guy Nouse, who had been the district officer of the Philadelphia Electric here in Coatesville. He was in charge of the Western Division. He joined Rotary in, I think it was September 1948. And I joined March the 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, along with Dr. Conrad, who was a dentist. The two of us were inducted that day in 1949. And I'm the longest member now in the Coastal Rotary Club. As I say, 1951, I was elected president. Now, one of the things in our club, besides the community help that we do, is, of course, in all Rotary clubs, one of the most important things is attendance. And in our club, we have men that have had perfect attendance. That means meeting weekly. When some people here, they thought you met monthly, but we meet weekly. And they've been almost 30 years. Bill Wright, who is the Buick owner, and his father was even longer before he passed away. Now, my perfect attendance was 2 years. When I was vice president and when I was president, I was perfect attendance. I attended every meeting. But I'm sure that most people know the Rotary Club, along with other service clubs in the area, do a tremendous amount of good. They donate, they raise money by different functions. One of the functions that the present Rotary Club has now is the Strawberry Festival, which is held in conjunction with the hospital. And usually Rotary will earn about $13,000, $14,000 out of that. And then at the end of the Rotary year, which is the end of June, the officers decide to donate different parts of the profits that they've made over the years. And they give it to the library, they give it to the food cupboard, they give it to various different groups in town that need help. And during the time that we're raising money, the different members, of course, are helping. Either we sell food, or we also sell tickets to the different rides. And so the members all participate in raising money for the library, for the Rotary Club. Now, of course, they have Rotary clubs in all areas, but The Coatesville Club was started in 1924, so it's a very old club. In fact, I have some notes which I think are now in the library, past records of the Coatesville Rotary Club, and I remember reading the minutes of some of the early meetings, and the first meeting they had, they invited, well, usually when a new club is organized and they're going to receive their charter, they will invite members from different Rotary clubs, and it's kind of a little celebration. They have dinner and all, and it was started, I think, in the spring of 1924. And in the summer, now getting back to Mr. Garman again, happened to be a coincidence. I read in the minutes that it was Mr. Garman's birthday. And at that time, they met at the YMCA, which was on Lincoln Highway near 3rd Avenue. In fact, the Rotary Club met there for about 50 years. And so during this meeting, it happened to be Mr. Garman's birthday. And so he thought he would pay for everybody's meal. And I think the total of the bill was $37.50. Because
And this was what year?
They paid about $2 for the meal, 1924.
24.
So Mr. Garman paid for the entire thing. I remember reading that in the minutes.
In your years of affiliation with the Rotary Club, I know that they have taken on many projects. Have you seen over the years a shift in focus as to what projects best serve the community?
Well, frankly, I have. In fact, when I first joined the Rotary Club, it seemed that they didn't have any specific projects. In fact, I hardly remember any projects that the club, they may have been doing it, but I wasn't aware of it. I think most members didn't know what was going on. And as time went on, of course, they saw that each member became involved in and they started to focus their attention on needy areas, a variety of places. Now, they also contribute money to the hospital. Some of this money that's raised each year. But usually it's been community help wherever it was necessary.
Okay. All right. Well, Dr. Giammarino, I thank you very much for being with us today. Your help here has been very enlightening, and I think it'll become a valuable asset to the library's collection of these tapes on the oral history of Coatesville.
I thank you very much for inviting me, and I was happy to be part of history.
All right, we're glad to have you.